Hello, I'm Mike Martin, Principal and Owner of ACP Management Consulting. Today we have an introduction to the basic concepts in project management. This will include some practical applications of project management, a few key definitions from the Project Management Institute, review of the project pyramid and project lifecycle, concluding with a few final thoughts on project management success. This series will continue in later videos that will cover the 5 project phases in a little more detail. The objective of these videos are to bring the principles of project management to life in not only the basic business activity, but to utilize the project management way of thinking in all your life activities. So let's get started. Welcome to our series on project management for everyone. We're all familiar with the need for formal project management in the business world, whether it's for construction of a new building or a new road, or that team project at the office that will provide substantial opportunities for your company. But we're going to learn that project management is everywhere in our day-to-day life as well. In fact, we probably already do some of the principles without even knowing that they are in fact project management activities. How about that room that needs painting? Or that garden that needs planting? Or even the dinner party next month? Each of these require an initial request to start, options to consider, obtaining materials required, performing the activity, monitoring the progress, and finally ensuring the outcome met the original desire. In other words, you're measuring the success. So in our 3 examples, did the room turn out like you wanted? Did the plants grow the way you should? And did everyone at the party have a good time? So now let's get back to the basics of the project management and look at some basic definitions from the Project Management Institute. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. The key word here is temporary, meaning it has a defined beginning and end, or rather a definitive length of time. A project manager is simply the person assigned to lead the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. The definition of the team here can be anywhere from one to many. There are decisions to be made in any project activity, and it's the project manager's responsibility to see that those decisions get made in a timely fashion. Now I want to introduce the idea of the project pyramid. It's the balance of 3 key parameters of any project. Let's talk a little more about this pyramid. Project pyramid is a concept used in multiple disciplines, but has significant impact to the project management area. Let's start our pyramid with the project parameters. There are 3 primary components. First, we have resources. These are what I call the 3 M's: materials, manpower, and money. Basically the things you need to complete the project activity. Next, we have time. Remember, when we define project as a temporary endeavor with a defined beginning and end. This time usually refers to how long you have to complete the project activity. And finally, we have scope. This is simply the specifics of the outcome expected from the project activity. In any successful project, you can be given 1 or 2 of these components, and then the project manager's job is to complete the project pyramid parameters. For example, if you tell me what the building should look like at completion, call that scope, and give me 3 months to build it, call that time, I'll tell you how much resource is required. Now there is some limitation to this philosophy, meaning some things just can't happen. You may have heard that old saying that 9 women can't make a baby in a month. Unrealistic parameters are a sure path to failure. Let's take that previous example. If the building you wanted was a 15-story custom-built skyscraper, we'll call that scope, and you only have 3 months to complete, that's time, there is no amount of resources that can get this done. This is where the project manager begins the negotiation process with the customer. For example, maybe the customer could buy an existing building and limited customizations could be made in the allotted 3-month window. The project manager's job is to look at all the options that could be employed to meet the customer's objective. Now let's look at a few more project management definitions. First, we have the project stakeholders. They include all the members of the project team as well as all interested and affected parties of the project activity. They determine the project requirements and the outcome expectations. This includes the project sponsor of the project. Next, we have the project life cycle. This simply identifies the phases that a project passes through from its initiation to its closure. Let's take a further look at this project life cycle. First, you have time, moving along the x-axis at the bottom of the screen. Then you have 3 M's, materials, manpower, and money, on the y-axis at the left of the graph. The red curved line represents the gradual increase in cost of the project over time, and then the eventual reduction as we move towards the project closure. Now let's look at the phases associated with this cost curve of the project. First, you have an official start or initiation phase of the project. This involves obtaining the preliminary scope and outcome of the project, as well as the initial approval to begin. Next, you have the planning phase of the project. This entails finalizing the scope and refining the objectives or outcomes of the project. It also lays out the course of action to be taken, referred to as the project plan. You can see that the cost curve is beginning to increase as the project gains momentum. Next, you have the execution phase. This is where the real work is performed to satisfy the project objectives. This is where the bulk of the cost will be incurred. As the project activity begins to come to completion, you also see the cost curve beginning to decrease. Finally, you have the close process. This is where all project activities are finalized and the formal closure of the project is obtained. Now there's one more critical process that we need to cover. The monitoring and controlling phase of the project begins shortly after the official start of the project. It's one of the most critical components of the project. This is where changes from internal or external forces are dealt with in the project. And we all know that change is one of the constants in life, so it will happen. I admit this looks a little complicated and appears to be for large, complex projects. But I assure you this works for small, simple activities as well. In those instances, much of this can be performed in your head or by simply making notes. The more you use the life cycle, the more comfortable you can use it in any size project activity. To wrap up our time here today, let me give you a couple of thoughts to take forward. First, project management is a way of thinking. Whether you are really a project manager or a member of a project team or simply performing activity on your own, you can look at the activity with the view of the project lifecycle phases. Next, let's discuss the 4 key steps I've identified to enhance your probability of success. First, be sure you identify the real stakeholder and objectives of the project. I can't tell you the number of times failed projects have occurred because of missing stakeholders in the decision process and unclear objectives on the outcome for the project. Second, constantly monitor the 3 parameters of the project pyramid: time, resources, and scope. Changes in any one of them will have the impact on the other 2. Third, constantly evaluate the impact of changes on the project. Understand changes can come from both internal and external to the project. Be vigilant. And finally, communicate frequently with the stakeholders. They say the 3 key things in real estate is location, location, location. The same can be said for the project management, except use communicate, communicate, communicate. Thank you for your time today, and I hope you found it useful. Good luck in your next project management activity.